This program contains candid discussion of gender identity and may include adult topics and language. Listener discretion is advised. This episode of Trans Chat is being brought to you by True Voice Lessons, LLC. Offering the finest in online voice and music instruction, True Voice has what you're looking for. Transgender voice training, singing, guitar, piano, and much, much more. Let our highly qualified staff of instructors help you achieve your goals. TrueVoiceLessons.com. Unlock your true voice today. Trans Chat with Christiana. Real people, real lives, real talk. Trans Chat with Christiana. Hi, and welcome to Trans Chat. Real people, real lives, real talk. I'm your host, Christiana Brecky. Namaste, Arsunain Keliadanyavad. Today, we're excited to introduce something brand new to the podcast, Trans Chat's Cacklin Hens. In this new recurring segment, my good friends Marci and Katie will be joining me remotely from the UK and California, respectively, to talk about, well, whatever the heck we feel like. I hope you'll join us for plenty of laughs and good conversation. I love reaching milestones, and I recently reached another on my journey towards womanhood. I fell truly, madly, deeply in love with a man who ultimately broke my heart. His name was, well, I guess I'd rather not say. Part of me still kind of cares for the guy, I'm sorry to admit. But it rhymes with jerk, so let's just go with that. We met on a trans dating site. I'd been dabbling in online dating for a year or so. I met some real weirdos, creeps, and losers. I did some stupid things. I even fell for a scammer who duped me out of a $50 gift card along with my dignity and self-respect. When I met Jerk, he was the answer to my prayers. He was tall, attractive, fit, funny, kind, old-fashioned, and just enough of a sexist to be sexy, if you know what I mean. A guy's guy who could fix cars and repair washing machines and whatnot. And the best thing about Jerk, he was real. I'd been burned too many times by phony fellas online, so I was very cautious while getting to know him, because in many ways, he was just too good to be true. He was stable, gainfully employed, a family man who was in close contact with his adult children, and always a gentleman, at least until the very end. It didn't take me long to fall in love with him. We were in touch every day for 4 months before we ever met in person. He would FaceTime with me during his lunch break while he was at work. He was handsome in his blue work uniform. He was handsome all the time. When we finally met in person, it was everything I'd hoped for and more. He came to my town, and we spent a week together. And never in my life had I felt so much like a lady. With him, I wasn't a trans woman. I was just a woman, and it was wonderful. That's how he treated me. That's how he made me feel. He considered himself a straight man, and that's when I started to see the distinction between sexual orientation and what I would consider gender orientation, not to be confused, of course, with gender identity. Sexual orientation refers to who we are attracted to sexually. But what about all the other non-genital related gender attributes? The things I find most attractive about a man have little or nothing to do with what he's packing in his pants. Physically speaking, I'm attracted to broad shoulders, strong arms, big biceps, beards, mustaches, and hairy chests. In terms of non-physical attributes, I love a man's confidence, decisiveness, sense of humor, and ability to remain cool under stress. In that way, I too would consider myself straight, a woman who is attracted to men. But if we're gonna boil it down to strictly genitals, it doesn't really matter that much to me, so I guess I would have to carry the bisexual label. Labels can get tricky when you're trans, am I right? So anyway, back to Jerk. We spent our first week together, and I thought I'd found the man I was going to spend the rest of my life with. I loved being with him and doing things with him. He made me feel safe and loved. At some point, he and I agreed that I should move to Georgia and live with him. Seemed like a dream come true, so I made plans, loaded my old car, and drove 1,000 miles from Texas to Georgia. As always, he was a gentleman, but there were signs that things may not have been as wonderful as they seemed. His cisgender wife had died a year or so prior, and he had a large portrait of her in his living room that was basically part of this shrine he'd made for her. Clearly, he was not over her. It made me uncomfortable right away. He asked me if I wanted him to put it away somewhere, and I said no. I mean, if she still meant that much to him, I would have felt like a bitch making him give that up. But it made it difficult for me to ever really feel at home there, or that I was ever foremost in his heart. There were no portraits of me anywhere. He took me out a few times, but he would never take a selfie with me. I took some, but he wasn't comfortable with me sharing them on my social media, the way couples do sometimes when they go out and do something fun together. Things didn't work out for a number of reasons, so I returned to Texas, which I used to think was horrible until I spent some time in Georgia. But even after I was gone, Jerk and I stayed close. We sort of resumed the long-distance romance we'd started, like 4 months prior. He continued to FaceTime with me every day from work. We told each other, "I love you," and blew kisses to one another. We shared an occasional naughty photo or video. And we carried on this way for almost another year. Then COVID hit, and the plans we'd made to meet up again had to be put on hold. And that's when I kind of started to notice that his interest in me was declining. Then he started sharing far-right political nonsense on his social media, knowing certainly that it would upset me. I never had a problem with his conservative, Trump-supporting politics. I really didn't, until he started broadcasting his views on Facebook. One day, I made the fatal mistake of laughing at one of his posts, and that was really the beginning of the end. He stopped talking to me. He just ignored me. And then a month or so later, I'm scrolling down my news feed and I see Mr. Jerk himself in a series of photos and selfies taken with his new cisgender girlfriend, smiling like he never did when he was with me. I was crushed, but I sucked it up and told him I was happy for him, even though I was reeling from the blow. He wrote me this 100-word manifesto about how our politics were too different and how so very compatible he was with his new girlfriend. Then he ghosted me without even saying goodbye or good luck. It hit me hard. I cried for days. He dumped me for a cis woman, so my dysphoria returned with a vengeance. But even worse than that, I thought he and I had a friendship that transcended romance. So for him to just cut off that friendship like a light switch was devastating. But while wallowing in my self-pity, I realized I wasn't really in love with Jerk so much as the idea of him and me together as a couple. Let me explain. U.S. sociopolitical divisions were widening, and neither side could seem to find any common ground with the other. In my relationship with Jerk, I saw a shining example of how two sides could not only coexist and get along together, but indeed could forge a loving union. He's Republican, I'm Democrat. He thinks Joe Biden is an evil, ancient Methuselah who's only still alive because he eats children. Whereas I think Donald Trump is a cartoon caricature created by and for the benefit of actual rich people. He's cis. I'm trans. I'm a person of faith. He's not. I saw it as a sign of hope that if he and I could see beyond all these fundamental differences and find love in our hearts for one another, then so too could the rest of the country. But my flight of fantasy abruptly crash-landed in the seas of reality, I'm afraid. Like the rest of America, it seems, he and I just couldn't get past the politics. Real people, real lives, real talk.
Trans Chat with Christiana.
I'm Marci.
I'm Katie.
I'm Christi, and we're the Cacklin Hens.
I don't know what a
The whole gay issue came out, and there was huge opposition. And there's huge opposition to trans now because trans is catching up with the gay issue. Because the gender dysphoria, the sexuality was understood earlier than gender dysphoria, and so the issues around gender dysphoria are catching up. And people don't like it because they see the trans movement as putting pressure for equal rights, and it's hitting the buffers because it's no longer as those poor trans people. But those trans people are trying to demand their rights. And when you actually want some concrete change, people don't like it because they have to change as well. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because trans people, all we want
is equal rights. We don't want special privileges. We just want equal rights like everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the struggle the lesbian and gays have gone through. Now trans are we're on the bullseye with our backs, of attacking us legislatively and politically and legally, all kinds of laws that get thrown up. That's probably pretty much what lesbian and gay people, folks, had faced when they started to establish their own identity as an organization. Unfortunately, because trans people aren't as powerful as in groups or politically organized like the LGBT community is, we fall under that umbrella to help, because I think we do have some sympathy there where people who are lesbian or gay, they have empathy, and they say, well, we've had that struggle too. And, we need to support our brothers and sisters in this because we've been oppressed also, and we know what it's like. It's just even within the lesbian and gay community, there are some frictions in there that do want to get rid of the T in there. And I'm thinking when people are transgender, they really kind of transcend a lot of things, because now they have kind of like both spectrums, whether you're male or female, and non-binary, which kind of covers them all.
Yeah, certainly lots of trans people are gay or lesbian or non-binary or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, like everywhere, yeah.
It crosses boundaries, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's why I meant it instead of transition, it transcends those gender barriers, being transgender. We kind of transcend those, I think, like a linchpin, connecting them all in a way, all related. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah, my brain kind of goes all over the place, but that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yours and mine too, sister.
At least I remembered to wake up this morning.
Yeah.
Trans Chat with Christiana.
Trans people is pushing for their rights, and they see us as militants. They think it's just a bunch of militant people, and they know we're going to push back against that, and we're not going to bother trying to find out about their condition. We're just going to be belligerent towards them. I just think that's what's going on, really.
Yeah, I guarantee none of these lawmakers in these states that are making anti-trans legislation right now, none of these people know jack squat about gender dysphoria. I assure you. And they're, just like you said, they have no interest in learning. Yeah. They don't want to know.
But it's a new frontier. The gender dysphoria is the frontier. Like the gay issue is the lesbian and gay issue it's kind of been resolved.
So it's our turn.
It's our turn now. Yeah.
I think too, more and more people, as our cultures change, as they evolve or get more enlightened, there are more people that grow up and they're younger. The generations that grow up, they know more people who are transgender, and whatever part of the spectrum, end of the spectrum of transgender means to that person, there is an awareness. I think, and probably with that enlightenment, there's a little more acceptance than adults are, especially people of our age, where many of them are set in their ways. I think as they get older, when they grow up, to them, kids, they don't know, they don't learn that prejudice. So they just, oh, you're a girl too? Oh, fine, let's go play. They don't care. They just want somebody to hang out with. They want somebody to relate to and have a friend. They don't care what you are, really, I don't think. It's usually stuff that's learned from their parents or other, maybe peer pressure, or even whatever's on in the news, or unfortunately, it's their church to some degree. That type of doctrine. I don't want to pick on churches because there's enough dragons to slay rather than churches. But I'd say organized religion, not churches. Some organized religions are like that, especially in the United States, where they're so evangelical, right-wing. They even have snake charmers and crap like that they consider religions. And I think they're more enlightened today. I think, plus with the internet, as Marci was saying, look at it. There's the three of us in 3 different locations. We could be anywhere in the world, but because of the internet, learning about gender dysphoria from other people, learning about what it means, so I'm not sick or ill. There's nothing wrong with me. Other people are experiencing this too. And people with the internet access, they can seek out, well, where can I go for surgeries that are affordable that I could go to? If my national health care service or my insurance here in the States can't afford it or they don't cover that, how am I going to save the money? And how am I going to go to another country or what? It's because of the internet. If we didn't have this back in the 80s and 90s, we wouldn't be talking, the three of us right now, all the way around the world like this. We wouldn't be having clear communications. We'd be texting each other or emailing each other. And it's difficult to do that on an email, trying to remember it rather than seeing each other. This is almost like a face-to-face a meeting talk, So without that benefit, I think a lot of our generation who are transgender would be really lost. We'd still be kind of fumbling around and thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me, and because books were few and far between coming out in support of transgender people. But now with the internet, you can get that information readily available, but you have to remember with the internet, you don't know what is correct and what isn't, and what's the wrong way to do. Because everybody will say, well, this is how I did it, or this is what I feel, and other people will say that too, rather than me wanting to adopt what somebody else is going through. I need to have my own journey, and be willing to share that. I think I talked with when we talk, when I always keep mentioning Sarah McBride and Janet Mock, how their journeys are so kind of different, but they share the same type of journey, even though they're on different ends politically, possibly, and financially of the spectrum. They have that relationship where they have a journey, and that's where I relate to, because I have that journey too. I don't even know these people, but I'm sharing that journey too. Yeah, I mean, I have my own story, but yeah. So this commonality that we have, maybe there's a power in that unifying voice.
Well, the young people are okay. I find from what I can tell, people like the millennials and the younger generation now, they don't have a problem. And I think that with trans people on the whole, there's always going to be individuals that are like, but on the whole, they don't have a problem. And I think that that's probably just because they grew up with more information. People our age and older, we grew up with just the information we were given from our parents and what the shit we were learning in school and stuff. The millennials and the younger, they grew up with the internet, so they didn't have to take their parents' word for anything. They could look shit up on their own and make their own judgments. So I think that's a big part of it.
That's true, Christi, because if we think about it, if people who are lesbian or gay, you'd say, I had no idea they were a lesbian or gay after all those years. I think that's with trans. I had no idea they were a trans person. I think once we kind of get to that acceptance with a lot of society, we'll be at a better spot than what we are today. I think we're starting to see a progression here. I mean, things have changed more in the last 25 years or 20 years about transgender than what there was before. They wouldn't even think of having protection laws, especially for bathrooms. That wouldn't even be a no. They'd say, no, if you weren't born a male or female, no, you don't get to do anything. But now, with a little enlightenment, people are saying, wait a minute, they're human too. Transgender people just want their rights like everybody else. They don't want special privileges. They have to go to the bathroom like everybody else. Why are you, making this an obstacle, for them to get hurt? This is crazy. Yeah. So I think Christi and possibly Marci, you guys should run for office and bring these agendas forward. Be politically active.
I admire Marci. I admire her so much, getting politically active. I have a political mind, and I follow it, but mostly just because I feel like, as trans people, we're thrust into far left politics, whether that's our personal convictions or not. We've been placed there by the political machine. So we don't have a whole lot of choice.
That's true. I think the conservatives, they have an image where they kind of have an image, that's just my own opinion, but they want to stay that way. There's not much change to think out of the box. They say, well, this is the way we've done it for years, and why fix it if it's not broken? Let's just keep doing the same old. I think with progressives, they think, well, let's have some new ideas. Let's something different, And I think conservatives say, why? Why do you want to change for? It's worked so far. All these, why change? Yeah.
I think all these states that have been putting in these anti-trans things, I don't think that stuff will stick. That stuff is just knee-jerk reaction from being beaten in the presidential main election so much. That's just, they got to do something. So that's a reaction. And we're low-hanging fruit. The trans people, low-hanging fruit, just like with comedians who like to pull out the trans joke. It's low-hanging fruit. Yeah. But I think we're getting to the point where we have so much representation now, we might be able to sort of start fending for ourselves without being underneath the whole LGB umbrella. Just
That's
because,
look,
we got people, just like you mentioned, Sarah McBride. We've got that lady Rachel, whatever, Devine, is that her name? The one who was the health secretary, assistant health secretary?
Yes.
The first trans person, nominated or whatever? Or
yes, appointed. Yes.
Appointed,
yes.
yes. So I think there's, we're a little less obscure now than we used to be. We've kind of been in the public eye for a little bit, not quite 10 years, but getting close to it. And so, we might not need to really kind of, worry so much about not being under the LGB umbrella at some point. I mean, it's just, it's kind of, if you feel betrayed, just because, come on, y'all. We're not asking for much. We're not here to trample on anything of yours. But if you think about it, if you're just like a gay person out here, you probably get people thinking, well, maybe you're actually a woman, or maybe you're actually a man, or whatever the case it is. And so maybe, I don't know, because the general population is so just barely tolerant of sort of gay, LGBT, anything queer.
Yeah. I think the way that progressives could really win is as long as they let Trump be the spokesman for the conservative right, the progressives will win every time. I mean, every time he's come out to endorse political candidates, they've all lost. Whenever he's gone, when he was president, going to Georgia and going to these other places and speaking publicly or tweeting, whatever, whoever he's endorsed, they've all lost. I mean, so as long as Donald Trump is the spokesperson, because all the conservatives go down to Florida to genuflect and kiss the ring of the Trump, they do.
That was incredible. His supporters, after he lost, actually made an image of a golden calf, didn't they?
That's right, they did. I was thinking, when's somebody going to start throwing some 10 Commandments at that thing and make it blow up like in the movie? It's a golden calf of Trump. Yeah, that's what I was saying. And that was at their convention, too. The golden calf of Trump, people taking their pictures with it like if this is this demigod, they keep saying, oh, he's our savior, our prophet, Oh, my God. Dear Lord. Oh.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to last, though. I think his brand is wearing off. And, up-and-comers are going to come and be the new sort of Trump. But they'll do so in a way that's a little more acceptable.
It seems like the more far out they are, the more they get those psychos to back them. Give me my gun and my flag and the cross, and, I'm a patriot. That's all they think about.
Trans Chat with Christiana.
Oh, Bugs Bunny. Okay. Because of his
you can't beat Bugs.
Yeah, his personality, his overconfidence, he was the one who always says, "Oh, what a maroon." Yeah, what an ignoramus. That's what he would say. Yeah, he would say that. How about you, Christi? Do you have a Warner Brothers favorite character?
Well, it's hard to beat Bugs,
Okay.
When you're young and you're watching Bugs Bunny and you're watching Bugs go into a female character like he does so often. Yeah. He doesn't just become a male bunny in drag. He becomes a female bunny. His body shape changes. Everything about it. And so, when you're a young kid and you're kind of wrestling with your gender, it was kind of like inspiring, I was like, oh, wow, if Bugs can do it, maybe I can do it.
There was actually, you did bring up a good point. There was one Bugs Bunny cartoon episode where it was the opera Valhalla, where Elmer Fudd was the hero of the story,
Kill the wabbit, and she was Kill the wabbit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like that.
That's one of the best. That's one of the best.
Yeah, I guess my Warner Brothers favorite, I think I got two. One would be Leghorn Foghorn. He's that big Southern Fried Chicken. He's I say, son, are you listening to me, boy? Are you listening to me? You say things like that. I think it's the characters that were around Speedy Gonzales. the fast mouse, because they would always say, "Oh, we need to get Speedy Gonzales," and he goes, "Oh, he likes my sister." He goes, "Speedy likes everybody's sister." I can see how sexist that would have been, that cartoon. He goes, "Arriba," or Sylvester's nephew. He'd pick the bag and stick it over his head and go, "Oh, father," and you're embarrassing me every time his dad, Sylvester the cat, would go after a big mouse. It was like a kangaroo, a baby kangaroo. and his nephew or his son would only see a mouse, But whenever Sylvester would go after this big kangaroo, thinking it was the mouse his son was talking to, he'd always get beat up all the time, because it's a kangaroo, a baby kangaroo, And so his son, Sylvester Jr. or his nephew, has a brown paper bag, and he goes, "Oh, father!" He put the bag over his head.
Shame.
I'm for shame. I can't see my friends. You can't even get a little mouse. And there was one episode where Sylvester is in he was in an alley with a bunch of other cats, and they were like at an AA meeting, trying to cure themselves of not eating mice and birds. That was their addiction. So all these cats were talking. At the end of the cartoon, Sylvester, his sponsor, is saying, "Oh, it was Tweety Bird," and he says, "I'm a pussy cat after all. I'm weak. I gotta have a bird. I'm weak." Like that. Well, anyway, I don't know. I transgress.
Are you kidding?
Well, no. I mean, the message. The message. I mean, like, with a lot of Bugs cartoons, and the one you just described, Katie, that there's a very deep and philosophical message that the people who did the cartoons want to get out. Very full of pathos and full of human meaning for people. Anyway.
Really? Go on.
Wow, that's deep. You're actually right. Now that I think of it, yeah, there are some things there. It's sex. There are some social things they always talk about. Whether they're making a parody of it, or an extremity of it, or expounding it, or subtly doing it. You're absolutely right, Marci. I hadn't thought of that.
They're just so clever. I've been watching Bugs cartoons recently because Christi reminded me that they're very easy to get hold of.
I'm a bad influence.
Shame.
And I just turned to that, and some of the storylines are like. Bugs is so clever. The messages are marvellous. It's just, it's kind of full of meaning for people. A reflection of how we are, really. And, you wouldn't need to turn to the Bible or Shakespeare. You just you get all of your kind of insight through Bugs Bunny cartoons.
That's right. That's all. I agree. That's all you need. My favorite ones are the ones where Bugs Bunny's in some kind of musical situation. So you've got the What's Opera doc that we were just talking about. There's that one where he's playing the piano, and at the very beginning of it, there's a guy in the audience who keeps coughing, and Bugs gets fed up with it. He stands up, takes out a pistol, and shoots the guy.
Oh, yes. He's conducting an orchestra. He's conducting an orchestra. That's right. He was.
Oh, that's a different one. That's a different one. But I think he shot an audience member doing that too. Now that I think about it, as a conductor.
Yeah.
There's that one where he was playing. He's just like playing banjo out there by himself, and there's this opera singer who keeps singing, and he's like, and Bugs is out there singing these little songs on the banjo, and they start fighting, and then so that when the guy's having his concert, Bugs keeps showing up and like torturing him in different ways. He finally becomes the conductor, and everybody's like, Leopold, it's Leopold, and he's all. His conductor stuff. Those are my favorites. Bugs Bunny in some musical situation. The Barber of Seville, or the Rabbit of Seville, where it's got Elmer Fudd in there, and it's got the da 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 da. It's got all that sort of music. Yes. So yes, I'm hooked on those. I could watch those forever.
I don't know. I don't want to
Thank you so much for listening and supporting the trans community. If you would like to help sponsor the podcast, visit our Patreon page and consider becoming a patron. In addition to helping the trans community, your patronage will give you access to cool things like merchandise, early release ad-free episodes, and exclusive content you'll find nowhere else. A big thanks to our friends in India and all around the world. And a special big thanks to Trans Chat Ultimate supporter and fellow Cacklin Hen, Marci Sandals. I'm Christiana, and this is Trans Chat. Until next time, take care, be you, be safe, and be proud.